Good morning, Greg J. Coffee Conversations with Greg J is on special edition. 10:30 in the morning. You know, making accommodations because I really like this and really greatly appreciative of this time. We're with the Vice Mayor of the city of Long Beach, Rex Richardson, the Honorable Rex Richardson. Going to talk about some stuff. We don't have a lot of time with us. So let's just jump right into it. Thank you all for coming on. Good morning, Vice Mayor.
Hey, good morning. How
Yes,
are
sir.
you?
Doing all right, surviving
Good.
in these here streets. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm like, man, he's like right on time. Pow! That was good
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. My team keeps me keeps my schedule tight. Make
Yeah.
sure we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
All right, that's good stuff. Good stuff. I'm watching you, man, walk through the city and go about your business as the vice mayor of the city of Long Beach. We got a lot to talk about it in a short time, so going to get right back to
Hmm.
it. We're in a space of recovery right now
That's
in
right.
this, all across the country. And as from your seat, from your perspective, how are we doing in recovery in the city of Long Beach?
Well, I'll tell you, last year was hard. It was hard on a lot of people, and it was hard on cities' coffers. We saw our revenue dry up from sales tax to transit tax, which is hotels and tourism, how that helps affect our general fund and provide services. All that evaporated. We're also oil providence. Long Beach has balanced its budget based on oil proceeds that are produced within our city, our Uplands Fund, for a long time, many, many years, 75 years, some odd number. And that those revenues declined as well. And so our ability to provide basic services, your fire, your police, your paramedic, all of those services people count on was certainly impacted. In addition, people were having a hard time. Food insecurity and hunger was at an all-time high. We did see a tremendous response. Community groups like Long Beach Center for Economic Inclusion, stepping forward, setting up massive food distributions and food pantries and helping people with their basic needs. The city council stepped up. We put forward initially a relief package that talked about sick days for people. And, we need to make sure that people, if entire hotels are closed down, when they open back up, do those workers get their jobs back? All those policy issues need to be addressed. And then we worked with our state partners and our federal partners to bring down resources to help our community twice. One was CARES Act. We brought $40 million to the city. And that $40 million wasn't an original plan because we're just shy of the 500,000 population threshold. And so we initially didn't get funding. So we had to go, thanks to our mayor, thanks to our staff, all our relationships in the state, we all leaned in. When that happened, I was chair of our state legislation committee back then. Now I've switched over and chair of our federal legislative committee because we're focused on the federal resources around recovery. Long Beach, identified a significant amount of resources, 200 some odd $1 million to boost our local recovery, help offset the deficits from last year, and invest in inclusive recovery. And so significant resources going out in this budget to do so. And that's a federal program. And so I switched from chair of state leg and then over to chair of our federal legislative committee so that I can help advocate, make sure that happens. And so the recovery, we've been busy. There's still a lot to do. The recovery, we've learned a lot that it's not even. Like we have a K-shaped recovery. Folks who were doing well prior to the pandemic are mostly back. Folks who were doing well not doing so well prior to the pandemic are doing worse off today and heading in the wrong direction. And so it's widening the racial wealth gap, it's widening the disparity across neighborhoods. And we have to stem that. That impacts us here in local communities. So cities have to step up and talk about rental assistance and talk about small business assistance, talk about the very safety net in our local community. That's what we have to do as a city.
Yeah, as a business owner here in this beautiful city of Long Beach, I'm really interested in. I look around and I see so many in our immediate business community hurting. But then again, I see people who, we've been able to weather the storm, and, now we're
Hmm.
just steadfast moving forward, trying to, keep business going. What is the city doing to help the business community? Because it seems like we got to start there, creating jobs in our community, and reopening some of these boarded up buildings that had to go
Yeah.
away during the pandemic and whatnot. Talk a little bit about, specifically what the city is doing to encourage and stimulate small business empowerment.
Hmm. I mean, I think in the area I represent in North Long Beach, we have a good story. What we saw during the pandemic, the first quarter of the pandemic, where we saw um, dramatic losses in small business revenue across the city. What we saw in North Long Beach was an economic boom. We saw a 40% increase in small business revenue in the first quarter of the pandemic. And what we found is that before, people would go out of their neighborhood to do these things. They want to stay local. And so, you couldn't find toilet paper at the grocery stores, but you could find it on your corner store. You could find it at your local bodega. You couldn't find, different foods and fruits and vegetables at, the big guy. Well, you could find it at your local bodega, right? We opened 9 new restaurants and coffee shops within the span of the year of the pandemic in an area that has historically we've struggled at attracting boutique retail and independent restaurants. And we opened 9. We opened 9 during a pandemic, and they're doing well. None of them have failed. Sal's Gumbo Shack, which started in the Ninth District, a good friend of mine, Sally Bevins, she's expanding to a second location in the pandemic because people were ordering online and they wanted to support their local independent restaurant. And so she killed it during the pandemic. She killed it. And she had a small footprint, right? She didn't have a large restaurant with a whole bunch of staff. She had a small footprint. It was smart. She optimized it. And now, because it's optimized, she's able to go and get another location down in Bixby Knolls, keeping it in Uptown. So it's a lot of great things. And I think the whole city can learn from the boutique economic development approach that we've had in North Long Beach. I think other areas of the city could benefit from that. Now, it didn't happen by accident. It's support from the Economic Development Department, groups like Long Beach Center for Economic Inclusion, tremendous support from our city team and our city leadership and our city council members. They've been supportive of this. And I think moving forward in recovery, we just have to continue to invest in the things that we know work.
Yeah. I saw your new complex up there. What is that? The Uptown
Uptown
Commons?
Commons, yeah.
Yes,
Those are
nice.
all independent in that food court, all
Yeah.
small independent. These are, like Main Chick, they're just in Southern California, right? You've got, Portside Seafood Company started in Irvine. They have a second location in Glendora, and now they're in North Long Beach, right? Irvine, Glendora, North Long Beach, 3 neighborhoods that folks wouldn't historically have said that they're similar, right? But they are similar in many, many ways. From proximity to the freeways to a good population of local neighbors looking for things to eat and quality public experience, and so public room, and so it works. They're making money. Next door, Robert Earl's is killing it. Robert Earl's Barbecue is the best barbecue in the city. They're right next door, right? Their patio dining, their public art, all of that was city sponsored that helped boost them. But Mr. Prize Man right next door, they have, a spot by USC, they've got Inglewood, and now they're in North Long Beach, Mr. Prize Man. And so all of this work, happened during the pandemic, right? Black owned businesses, API businesses, Latino owned businesses that are showing up in an area that frankly, we haven't seen a lot of investment into making these small businesses work. So we're happy with what we're seeing, but we certainly know there's still a lot of hurt out there. People need to back to work. Housing's still a big issue. People are precariously housed, spending more than 30 or 50% of income on their rent, and all of that is bad for the city if we're not able to make sure that we boost our safety net, ensure that we have a healthy level of production in our city. Production is a good thing. We've already zoned for it. We build more housing. That helps stabilize neighborhoods. It helps, take pressure off the rental market. It's a good thing, and we need to. That's one area that we could do a lot better as a city.
All right, two things I know you've been really vocal about, and it's probably just a big old calculus problem that you all are trying to work on and figure out, and that's our increased homelessness, and then the surge in
Hmm.
crime, which is all over the country now. I mean, I think a byproduct of the pandemic is the violent crime we're seeing, but I know that in our city, we're beginning to see a lot. Feels like an increase. Now, I don't know what the data shows. I'm just telling you what it feels like out here in
Yeah.
these here streets. But what
Well,
you know,
yeah, the beginning
what's
of
going
summer was beginning of summer was certainly pretty high.
on?
And unfortunately, it's not the first hot summer that I've seen as a council member in North Long Beach. And typically, um, what the way we would respond would be in investing in youth and programs like Be Safe. SAFE stands for Summer Activities in a Friendly Environment. It's basically extended hours in the park and programming to create a safer environment and engage youth. Those are the things that over the years we've done, investing in violence prevention strategies and all of those things. During the pandemic, and you can't come outside, how do you do those things, right? The amount of engagement with youth, even youth sport, does so much to keep people, give youth opportunity. But in a pandemic, those things were limited, and
Mhm.
so you can't just turn off the faucet on these vital resources that help keep our community stable and expect that weeds won't grow. And so during the past year, weeds grew, and that's a part of the recovery. So the city council recently put forward a safety recovery plan, which was looking at some of the resources that we're investing into violence prevention, upstream community programming, and youth support for our youth, but also making sure that the base staffing levels in the police department are there to be able to respond. Making sure that there's things like invested in community walk program that's actually showing really good benefits, and I see it in my neighborhood. We invested in that. City council invested in that, and that's getting out in the community, getting police to knock on doors and walk the street. And I've been out there and I've seen it, and people appreciate it, right? When they see their city team and out there knocking on doors, making things happen. And so we've actually seen a reduction in crime since those things have begun. Particularly in my neighborhood, we've seen the violent crime has begun to reduce already. There was it was a really hot beginning of the year, but
Yeah.
was really hot. But we're beginning to see, and there's a direct correlation also to the economy. As the economy
Mhm.
comes back, as things reopen, I think you will see a more active corridors, more active parks, and thus the correlation to the violent crime on our corridors and our parks go down the more you invest in activating them.
Vice Mayor, I hear you, and I'm really, really encouraged. And I know that you concentrate on your district, and I do
Sure.
think though your approach can be emulated in in different ways across the city. Actually,
Hmm.
in my opinion, I think the whole thing about it in a way you're describing like a version of community based policing that does in I mean I've seen it over the years. It does engender trust. It does
Right.
cause people to engage in a level of conflict resolution that
Right.
does not necessarily end in violence. I mean, I think that's a really good approach to governance. Let me ask you a question because I am the vice president and president elect of the Arts Council for Long Beach. So
Hmm. Hmm.
nowadays, and so I'd love to just engage you on how do you see the arts as part of this recovery? How do you see the arts as a tool to
Hmm.
engage in this reduction of violence and maybe inspiring and informing the people to go as we come out of this dark time of the pandemic.
Right. The arts have always had a way of capturing the zeitgeist, the spirit of the time, and we're at an interesting point in our history as a nation. All the events of the past year, global pandemic, global recession, unrest in the streets, that has to manifest through. That's going to have an impact on our society and our culture. That has to manifest through the arts. And so the way I see it with the arts, I always see the arts um, as essential to any community tapestry and essential to the services we provide as a city. I'll give you an example. I remember Powwow came to Long Beach. It was an international mural arts project, and muralists would come to the city and do public art. Very exciting program. Loved it. The first year there were no murals in the North Long Beach community. So me being the North Long Beach council member, I said, hey, you can't detach the communities from this. We got to have our own thing. So we started this thing called the Creative Corridor Challenge. And it was simple. Local muralists painting murals on areas that were previously hotspots for tagging. And the premise was simple. The youth of the community are telling us the areas that need attention. And so rather than continue to paint out graffiti, let's turn them into a place. Let's turn it into a landmark by putting a local cultural mural there. And the results were astounding. One mural called Northern Prominence, 200-foot mural. This thing, in the year prior, that site had been tagged 104 times, tagged and cleaned by the city 104 times in 1 year. It was only tagged 2 times that subsequent year. So that's money you're not spending now on all those hours it takes to come and repaint that wall. Now it's mural arts. And we've done about 20 of these murals now, right? So they're reducing the amount of graffiti in the neighborhood. And I'm sure you saw graffiti increased during the pandemic. And these murals have really done a good job at, making sure it doesn't pull down overall character of our corridors. And so the public arts have been incredibly important. Now we haven't been able to do performing arts. We just got the green light on June 15th to host to begin hosting concerts in the park. We just announced last month that we're going to do the Uptown Jazz Festival this weekend. All of that is new. I think it's a good thing. I think, in the new reality is we can't not have events, but we're going to need to add additional standards to make sure they're safe. Vaccinations should be available and required for entry into, places that have a lot of people, and so we're doing all those things to help make sure that there is a transition plan for the arts.
All right, you mentioned the Uptown Jazz Festival. Good, perfect segue because I wanted to jump into that. I'm excited, and looks like you expanded it a little bit. Talk a little bit about what
we
are
had
we
a
in
unique
store?
opportunity. I don't know that. Look, the Uptown Jazz Festival gets better every year, and this thing started. When I was Steve Neal's chief of staff, he was the councilman. He had always said, "Hey, Gardena has jazz festival. We should do something similar to Gardena, right?" We would talk about it. And then me and my wife went to New Orleans. Were we married yet? We weren't married yet. I think we're still engaged. We went out to New Orleans and to some barbecue and blues festival. It wasn't even, in a local park. And I looked at it. This park is smaller than Houghton Park. We could do this, right? So we came back and sat down with the councilman at the time. Sat down with Steve and said, look, I saw this. It was just barbecue and blues. It was one stage. It was a bunch of barbecue vendors. It looked great. And I came from California, right? Looking for an excuse to go to New Orleans. I came from California, had a great time. So we can do this at Houghton Park. And the timing was right because at that point, the municipal band had not played in North Long Beach. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars at that point. One mini band concert was like 15, 20,000. And we said, this fight about trying to get muni band to come to North Long Beach, maybe that's not the right fight. Maybe instead, let's build our own thing. Let's build our own thing. Steve said, that's the play. Let's advocate for the funding to do one muni band concert, but instead of planning muni band, let's do our own festival. So we called it the North Long Beach Latin Jazz and Blues Festival. Super long, too long of a name, too long of a title, right? That was the first festival. Councilman Neal paved the way, helped make it happen. 2 years later, when I took over for Councilman Neal, we kept it going. We rebranded it as the Uptown Jazz Festival. Shorter name. It's, we always have jazz, but we also know just, the diaspora of jazz and Black music is that jazz influences everything. So you'll have you'll have some R&B, you'll have some funk, you'll have straight ahead jazz, you'll have Latin jazz, you'll have all of those things. So over the past years, we've had people like our headliners included like Pancho Sanchez, Guapale, DW3, Ohio Players, Confunction, Ozo Motley, Tito Puente Jr., all of these people, it's always, cultural, but we've had great headliners, great performances. And we also create the platform for local artists. We've had local folks, Shy But Fly, Tatiana Tate Quartet, Alvin Hayes Jr. Our local people also have an opportunity to come showcase themselves. And so all of those are legacy now. And so this year, yeah, we're doing the Uptown Jazz Festival this year. And we're integrating unveiling two murals. One is incredible. It's celebrating Uptown arts and culture by Bodek Luna. Bodek Hernandez, I would call him Bodek Luna. It's an incredible mural. It is incredible. Wait till you see it. And then we're integrating another poem on Artesia Boulevard, sponsored. So the one in the park with Bodek is sponsored by Blue Shield, but the one on Artesia is sponsored by Young Invincibles, and that was called Thrive 90805. It's celebrating kids and a thriving 90805 community. And then we have a great lineup. So we're doing 2 days this time. So Friday, we're doing a white party. We don't expect the same levels of attendance to Friday, but you'll have food trucks, and we're not going to bring out the vendors. It'll be food trucks. Wear your white. We'll celebrate the 10th year. And then Saturday, we're starting with a block party on Artesia Boulevard at 9 a.m. We got 5-6 bands there, Black Health Equity Fair going on. We've got, it's going to be a lot of fun. And then in the afternoon, we start the Uptown Jazz Festival, which the main stage, which, as you know, our headliner is Sheila E. this year, right? So Sheila E. has offered to do our show in the past. We weren't big enough for Sheila E. Sheila E. requires a big stage. She puts on a great show. We were not ready for Sheila E. 3 years ago when this was possible. I think we're at a place where we're ready now. And we have a great lineup.
So she's bringing the horns and everything, hey?
Man, she's got
like multiple drum people. Yeah,
multiple risers on the stage. She's about to do her thing. And you have that, but you also have the folks people love. DW3 has played every Uptown Jazz Festival. Biscuits and Gravy Live have done like the last 3 Uptown Jazz Festivals. You also have a really special treat this year. Robbie Krieger, legendary guitarist of The Doors, is actually gonna perform for us. And so we're in a really good place in terms of the presentation, local art. You've got jazz, and like I said, the diversity of, you have, Sheila E., who goes from Latin jazz to, all of those different things.
Yeah.
And then you have Robbie Krieger, rock and roll, The Doors, who's doing a jazz. Robbie Krieger's new experience is jazz, right? You've got, R&B with Biscuits and Gravy Live. You've got Pastor Funk, which is some funk. You've got Susie Hanson Latin Band on Friday. That's more Latin jazz. And so you've got a great mix of music for a very diverse community.
You got Cy Smith coming too, eh?
Man, Cy Smith is going to do a great show Friday night. So Cy, and she's been super excited in promoting the Friday show. So yeah, Cy Smith, she coins herself the queen of underground soul.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Friday's kind of like a date night, right? Wear your white, have a good time. It's a date night. Yeah. It's out the park, plenty of space to social distance and spread out. You want to get on the dance floor, bring your proof of vaccination, make sure you have your mask, get on the dance floor and have some fun. And so yeah, it's going to be a good community event. We need a good community event.
I know I'm coming through. I will come through and fellowship with you. I'm really excited about this.
Bring your proof of vaccination and wear your face mask, and we'll be in good shape.
Yes. Wait, where's my mask? He's in there somewhere.
If folks are not vaccinated, you can get vaccinated on site. Like here's the thing. I know there's a bunch of different reasons why people may, say the vaccination isn't right for me or whatever it is. But here's one thing, that I would say. Just look at the data. Look at who's being hospitalized right now, right? Look at who they are. They look like us. And we already know, and Sharon Diggs Jackson makes this point really, really well. But when we go into the hospital, even if it's not COVID, the data shows we don't get the same responsiveness in hospitals. And hospitals are already overwhelmed. And so if you know that in our communities, we are the ones in the hospital, in the ER, really being impacted.
Sure.
And, historically, the treatment of, our communities, there's always been a disparity in how we're treated. Then be street smart about it. Get vaccinated simply to protect yourself. Like, be street smart about this. Don't put yourself in a position to fail, and to be a victim when you have an opportunity to get vaccinated. And the data shows that people who are vaccinated are significantly less likely to end up in the hospital. Doesn't mean you can't get COVID, but it means that you're going to take pressure off our hospital system, and that you can potentially save your life by getting this vaccination. And, young people can't even get it yet. I wish, right. I look forward to the point where it's approved and all of that for young people, so we can begin to make sure that young people are protected as well. But right now, for grown-ups, there's no excuse. Get out there and get the vaccination.
Yeah, man. I really agree with you 100%. And, it's a tough space that we're in, but we got to do the right thing. Got to do the smart thing, be smarter, and make it so. One last question for you. I know you got to go and everything, but as objectively as you can, I'd love to hear from a state level, your assessment of this whole recall effort. We're getting our ballots in the mail now, and folks got to get out there and make a decision. I'm feeling like it's a waste of time. What's your assessment there, Vice Mayor?
Look, whether you feel it's a waste of time or not, this election is happening. This recall election, is happening. Like, my ballot is right here. It's got it yesterday. It is happening. So it's not a question of whether or not it's a waste of time. It's a question of whether or not we are going to protect our state. And we talked a lot about what's happened over the past year. Our recovery has been directly a result of our partnerships with the state and federal government. Now, I can see if someone said that, there's been some big crisis in the state, some big emergency in the state that warrants recalling the governor in the middle of a term. But people don't realize that petition was circulated months before COVID even reached our shores. They were planning to do this recall before the pandemic happened. And so, another thing, they wouldn't have gotten the signatures for this if the judge hadn't given them an additional 5 months to go collect signatures. So this hasn't been about the pandemic. This is partisan politics. Now, I think if people want to elect a new governor, do it every 4 years. But you don't change and go through a recall election in the middle of a crisis when we should be focused exclusively on beating COVID-19 and getting our communities back on track. So this election is one of the most important elections of our lifetimes. Get that ballot, vote no on question number 1 on the recall. So, like I said, this election is happening. We need to really, get out of the we don't know what to do situation. Like, this is happening. Somebody, if this does happen, somebody could be elected with 10% of the vote. Just whoever's the top vote getter, all these people nobody knows, and top vote getter, 10% of the vote, they could be the next governor. That's not democratic. It should be a governor should be elected by a majority of Californians, not through a loophole that's being exploited on the backs of a pandemic that has hurt our communities more. Come on. We need to vote no on this recall.
All right, there you have it. The word still stays the same. Participate, get to the polls, and make your voices heard. Got to definitely do that. I'm with you. And here's Rhonda Love. I forgot. Yes, yesterday your birthday. Huh? Happy birthday, Vice Mayor Rex Richardson.
Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. 38, feeling great.
Yes, sir. Good stuff. I just had a birthday too. We're fellow Lions, I see.
Nice. That's right. Happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday to you too. All right, Vice Mayor Rex Richardson, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for your stewardship. As we move forward and keep on striving. We're gonna keep calling you on the Arts Council because we need your support to help. Enhance that essential service that you described, because we do believe art culture are definitely an essential service in recovery. And any last words you would like to say to the people?
I didn't shout out Vlad, the artist on the Artesia mural, Thrive 90805. So
Vlad, yes.
Vlad, I shouted out Bodak. I didn't shout out Vlad. We have two incredible murals we're unveiling, and we're doing the unveiling of the new Doris Topsy Elbert Center. So the sign, all of that stuff. We're doing the dedication at 11 o'clock. Mother Doris is coming to the Jazz Festival. She's ready. We look forward to showering her with flowers. So. Absolutely. Well, thanks a lot for inviting me to come on your show.
Yes. Thank you for coming through, and we'll see you this weekend. Look forward to it. You guys in the chat, you got that Uptown Jazz Festival information. It's free. There's a link there to their Facebook page and all of that. You can get us on Coffee Conversations with Greg J on the Facebook page, Beach City Radio, beachcityradio.com, and the audio version will be available wherever you get your favorite podcast. All right, mid-morning shenanigans, sipping coffee. Got your coffee break in. Get back to work there, Vice Mayor.
Take care.
All right, God bless you now. All right, y'all. Love one another. Peace and blessings.